express my reverence to Bhagwan, Bhagwan Mahavi, and the great tradition of knowledge which has survived from that time to today. I express my reverence to all learned monks and nuns who took great initiatives towards this knowledge treasure, and I express my reverence to His Holiness Gurudev. So today we are going to explore the concept of Samudghata in the sense of an overall idea of what Samudghata is, and mainly my focus will be to tap into comparing the two categories of Samudghata which we could do. How many types of Samudghata, if I can start with that question?
7.
Good. So we are all ready with the first step. Since we have 7 types, when I say 2 groups, the first category first type which we find about the of Samudghata is Chadma Samudghata and Kevali Samudghata. So Chadmas means an unenlightened being performing the Samudghata, and Kevali means an enlightened being performing the Samudghata. So naturally an enlightened being is got rid of 4 ghati karmas and they are about to liberate, and the last part of the karma which is remaining, the initiative is just to shed that karma. And again the question is whether they make an initiative to do it or it just happens. Majority of the writers would say it happens, it's not done, and there are many reasons why we think about that. So I'll go into that as well. So we have 2 types, Chadmas and Kevali, and within Chadmas there are 6 of them. So these 6 can again be categorized into 2. The ones Vedaniya, Kashaya and Maranantik, and then Vaikriya, Aharak and Tejas. So what is the difference between these 2 categories would be my main focus today, and to show that how a simple concept as Samudghata can actually be so diverse. So I'm trying to see if we could come up with a chart so it gets easier. So I'm actually going to use 2 terms, Vedaniya, like 3 Vedaniya cluster, like Vedaniya cluster and Vaikriya cluster. Vedaniya cluster would include Vedaniya Samudghata, Kashaya Samudghata and Maranantik Samudghata, and Vaikriya cluster would actually include the 3 which is in which has Labdhi in it, and that is Vaikriya, Aharak and Tejas. So as we discussed, we could actually go by those 2 terminologies if you can just remember in mind. So the first thing we start with this question is what is Samudghata, right? So when you understand what is Samudghata, what is the key understanding of Samudghata? Soul leaves the body, right? Soul leaves the body and returns back. But when we look into the definitions and descriptions, the majority of them would also say that there is a destruction of karma. So there are 2 aspects of definition. One is movement of the soul, the expansion of the soul, and the other one is jo karam hai, the layers of karma which is tied up to the soul is shed off. Now when we look into this Vedaniya cluster or Vedaniya triad, which is Vedaniya, Kashaya and Maranantik, we see that the soul only expands a little bit, sheds the karma, comes back. Now, in context of Vaikriya, Aharak and Tejas, do you remember what happens when these are done? Sorry? So when we look into the an easy clarity of the subject by this chart. Okay, so the first thing we said is definition. In definition, naturally there is a concept of movement in both, right? There is a movement happening in the this factor of movement or the expansion of the soul is a common denominator. I mean, every Samudghata in itself means actually expansion of the soul. But when we look into the definition, as I mentioned, there is a destruction of karma. So though there is a destruction of karma involved, it is not like a direct connection with it. So when there is a Kashaya Samudghata, there is a soul expands, it's just shedding of the energy and coming back. But when it is Vaikriya, Tejas and Ahara, there is some action being performed by this. So what does one do? For example, what is the purpose of Tejas Samudghata? One could actually burn something or kill someone or heal the famine land. So there is some action being performed to accomplish something or to fulfill one's desires. So if there is an action,
action is being performed by the soul.
Yes. So these three, the VS cluster actually, these are three types. Vaikriya, you could actually create multiple forms to travel and do something. It could be like creating an army or creating a whole lot of people to take care of serving someone. It could be like any social cause or it could be any negative cause. It could be violent and non-violent cause. It is creating multiple forms and stuff. In Aharak, one is actually going to see Mandar Swami or any Tirthankar or Kevli to receive an answer from them. And in Tejas, it is either negative or positive, in the sense one could be destructive. It's just like an atom bomb. This is very unique theory in Jainism about the Tejas body. Tejas body is a subtle body which we carry, right? We all need karmic body, right? Because that gives us the justice. Okay, I've done the karma, I do good, and I should be paid back for my good. Not paid back for the negative ones, right? So the karma theory is so important for Jain. Why? Because there is no God controlling it. It's our karma. We do it. We should get back what we've done. So for justice purpose, karmic body is crucial. But why do we need a Tejas body in Jain philosophy? What is the purpose of Tejas body? ये औदारिक body, okay, समझ में आता है कि okay, I need life, and for life you will need a body, so you get either an औदारिक body or a Vaikriya body. Why do we need Aharak body? To communicate with the Tirthankar or something special. But why a Tejas body should be traveling with the soul from eternal time until the last breath of before liberation?
By your potential.
It stores power within the soul.
It stores the power within the soul. It is biopotential. Anything else?
And when the soul moves from one body to the another body, it needs that energy.
It needs energy. What else?
Karmas are attached to that body as well. So, certain functions in the body cannot take place without Tejas body. I think I've heard digestion and things like that.
Yes, so basically this is
it's essential.
it is essential because this gives the radiance or energy aspect of our survival basically. We call it vital energy, prana, bioelectric energy, fire body, it is all Tejas body. Now the uniqueness is that this body is not an actionless body. It is an energy body and not an action body. So basically there is an Audaric body, this body performs an action. We are doing some Man Vachan Kaya Yoga. Even if Aharak body or Vaikriya body, they perform some action. Even karmic body would perform an action of assisting in the journey of transit from death to birth. But this Tejas body is described as an actionless body. So when it is performing some task, you would not call it as an action.
Autonomous.
Hmm?
It is autonomous.
it's not, the problem is not about autonomous, because even karmic function would actually be autonomous. The difference is that there is an action and there is a reaction. Let it put it this way. So there are two terms, action and reaction. So for example, there is a person who actually lights a candle, that's an action. But when there is this candle flame burning, what is actually happening there? It's just a chemical reaction, right? There is carbon dioxide and oxygen and something is happening. So it is merely a chemical reaction. Giving another example, if there's a land which doesn't have good ability of growth in the garden, what do? You add some fertilizers. What happens? There are these chemicals which react to make the land more fertile. So these are mere interaction of chemicals or elements, and there is something happening. And so, I mean, that's how I understand is the difference between when a Tejas body is performing something, what is the task of Tejas body? To either heal a barren land or heal the famine or burn something off. So burning something off or healing something is actually some kind of, like medicine. Medicine goes into the body and there is some kind of process which starts off. So these are not man, vachan, kainu, yog. There is no action there, but it is just an energy. I use the word reaction to differentiate it, but there is a task performed by the energy in the form of an energy. So it is a task of either a fire body, either to heal or to hurt someone. So this whole difference of Tejas body is so special that even there is this, generally we think that body is there to do something, body is to live, body is to perform something. Even when Tejas body is performing, it's not like a regular action as such, it is a very different kind of action. So when we talk about these three, Vaikriya, Aharak and Tejas, there is some task being performed, and the moment we say we have something done, the natural is there is a karmic consequence for it, isn't it? Any action would have a karmic bondage. So when we define Samudghata as karmic destruction, would it be applicable for this one? There is a problem, isn't it? Because there is a lot of karmic bondage already involved in it. So here we understand in two steps. Step 1, the process of Samudghata. Step 2, what do you do after Samudghata? Right? In the step 1, when there is a process happening, there is this Aharak or Vaikriya body being performed, created. So when you create this new body, you need some karmic, you shed some karma to create this body. So in the process of performing that body, you are shedding the karma. But after the body is created, the action done, you are actually piling up more karma. So eventually there is a more piling of karma. And the second thing is, when we say that there is karmic destruction involved in the process of forming, it's an indirect thing. It's not like it's not the way which is happening in the Vaikriya, in the Vedaniyas, Kashayan, Maranantik. In those, it's just the soul expands, and then there is an example given by Jin Bhadragani in Vishesha Vishadbhashya. You have a wet cloth and you put it packed it together. How long will it take to dry? Much longer. But if you open it up and spread it out, the process is much faster. So Samudghata is something like that. It is a process to a faster process of destruction of karma. So this expansion involves destruction of karma. So the expansion is Vedanya Kashayan or the Vaikriya Aharak as well. But as we see, ultimately there is a lot of karmic bondage involved. Yes.
Madam, why is there only just destruction? Why not influx of karma? So like in the example of the cloth, if it's tightly wrung, then although it will take a long time to dry, but at the same time if it's going to rain, if you have got the cloth spread up, then the whole cloth will get dry, wet very quickly. But if it's wrong, then it's the less chances of it actually getting more water particles.
So, in our example, the condition of rain is not been included. These analogies would actually be only relative, isn't it? You have to use it in this specific context. So the additional rain which is happening today is not there. Probably the day Jinbadragani wrote this, it was not raining. You didn't think of that. So yeah, the whole idea is that you pick the analogy in one specific context, not like all aspects of it. Yeah. So the whole idea of definition. But when it comes to Kevali Samudghata, the key purpose is destruction of karma. Now, even the other way around, if you remember, I had mentioned in the earlier that every projection or samudgat by a Chhatmast actually involves karmic bondage. Yeah? And what does the bondage come about by? For reason, which reason? Why would there be a karmic bondage in Vedaniya Kashayam, Maranantik Samudgat?
Because there is destruction of other souls in the process.
Okay, see, the whole idea is when the soul is expanding, subtle microbes are there around you, and you are actually hurting these subtle microbes, and because you're hurting them, you're having karmic bondage. So even in the process of expansion, there is karmic bondage involved in it. So ultimately, the definition is actually most appropriate only for Kevali Samudghata, destruction of karma. And why? Because Kevali Bhagwan, the karmic bondage is, it's beyond any kind of question for them. They have only one specific type of bondage and it's not there. And in all these other cases, one or the other way, there is a trap where there is a karmic bondage involved. But then the definition itself is about expansion and destruction of karma. So that was the first thing which we explored in context of these three. And then the next question is life forms. Who can perform which kind of samudgat? So which samudgat can you all perform? Let's put it this way. Anyone has any experience of any of those?
Kashaya.
Kashaya.
Three of them, the first three, we as the Vedaniya cluster, they could happen to anyone, any life form. It could be an animal, plant, water, air, nigod. Even nigod, right? Nigod is like one body, infinite souls in one body. And while they are dying, they could have Maranantik Samudgat happening together. When they are actually living, they could have Kashaya Samudgat happening. So since their life is together, tied up with the same body, they might have multiple souls having the Samudgat at the same time. Now in my language there is a problem. The problem is whether these Samudgat are being done or it just happens. So sorry for the language problem. The probability is that the Vedaniya Kashaya and Maranantik is not done, it just happens. You not make an initiative to do it, it just is spontaneous because of the karmic pressure which is involved in it. But in case of the rest three, which is Vedaniya, Vaikriya, Aharak and Tejas, their special power is not found in all. But still, like for example, Aharak Samudgat is found only in a Muni, in an ascetic. And then that also is a Chauda Purva Jnani. So with that condition, we know that it is only confined to one specific, special person. But Vaikriya and Tejas, these two, there is some debate about it, debate in the sense we have different views. Let's start with Vaikriya. So Vaikriya is about the ability to create forms, and this ability could be found in, of course, Devta and hell beings by birth. So by birth they have this body, and that is the reason when you say some Devta appeared, who is coming? In your dream? Yes. And the Vaikriya Shari, not the original birth Vaikriya of theirs. They would create a new body, new Vaikriya to travel out. So, for example, when we say that Bhagwan's birth celebration and the Indra comes and he does all that rituals, and who is coming? Which body is coming? Vaikriya, but not the original Vaikriya of their. I mean, they would create a new Vaikriya to travel around to perform different tasks. Like the Samavasaran, which is made of Bhagwan. The Devtas do it, and they actually create a new Vaikriya to come up and perform different tasks. So any kind of special task which we listen about that the Devta is doing, it is by the special Vaikriya they use it. And the other interesting thing is about spirit possession. Like someone's body, Devta comes and enters into someone's body. What do you think about that?
I think it's just maybe just the energy of that person would be so powerful that it can enter.
So energy, Pragyaji says only energy goes, not the soul. Any other view to this? If someone's body, some other soul enters, whether even it could be human possession. It's not like they are spirit possession. There is a theory by Hemchandracharya wrote in Yoga Shastra that a person, a human being, can actually take control of another human being or possess the other human being. So the possession actually could be of spirit possession or human being possessing it. Now there are two possibilities based on, again, some of these scriptures mention about it, that like for example there are terms like avishta or when there's certain kinds of, there are different terms used for all this possession. So one of the Vyavahar Pasha, I think, mentions that there are two possibilities. One is the Devta might actually just send some energy into the other's body and need not actually enter into the other's body. The other probability is the Devta or the other soul could actually enter into the other's body. So it's interesting to see that we've been thinking that, oh, someone has been possessed and there's a Bhuta or whatever, Yantara, whichever Dev is there, it's entered the other person's body, but the probability is both. When it could actually enter, the soul could enter, or just they could actually prakshep of energy could happen, and that could also be one method of controlling the other person. So it's very tricky and to see what is the method of these all kinds of things happening. There is no one static theory. And again, when someone is possessed, how do you know whether there has been a real spirit entering into the body or it's just the energy prakshep, or we don't know. It's hard to say. The other example could be the Anjan Shalaka when is done, Pratishtha is done in a temple, right? What's happening there?
But I don't know
What is Pran and what is Pratishtha?
Pran into statue.
What is the purpose behind it? Like what is the intention to invoke the deity, right? To invoke some Devta and invite them to enter into the Pratima and then make it alive. So that's the whole idea. Now, whether, for example, after 10 years, is the Devta still sitting here in your temple? No other business for the Devta to take care of? Huh? I'm not sure, like, a question. प्राण प्रतिष्ठा तो उस समय में की थी, उस समय में तो something had happened, so someone must have come. अभी भी वहीं पर है वो,
उनका प्राण है.
प्राण है. Now what is प्राण then? What is different between प्राण and soul then?
Vital energy.
So again, no ashatna of anyone. What I'm trying to just say is there are multiple possibilities in these things. But since we don't have the ability to really know, many times there could be someone coming, right? So there are big pujas and big rituals being performed, and many times there is a feeling that yes, someone came, which means they were not there at that time in the temple already. They came, they visited and got occasion. So
Each and every puja, there's always a ceremony to
invoke.
always.
Yeah, so the whole idea is that they might come physically, they might send some energy, there are different ways which could happen, but there is an interaction. We don't deny it. There is an interaction of the celestial world and our world, and the interaction could be much more explicit, very mild. It could be just distance communication. It could be just they send the energy, or they might send a Vaikriya body. So there are multiple possibilities in all these cases. So when we look into who can perform Vaikriya, it could be humans can perform it. Devta and of course hell beings already have it by birth ability, but humans can gain this ability by penance, and even animals actually can have this, can get this ability. Now the most interesting part of this is that according to Shwetambar tradition, even the air beings can actually have this ability, and as per Digambar tradition, air and fire beings actually can have this ability. Now what does it mean to say that, oh, the air and fire are having the ability of Vaikriya? So one example is we talk about the it could be some of the stuff is repeating, but I think it's still okay to, because in old times when we were in the village or town, there would be a wind blow, which we would call as andhi. I mean, we would call it andhi, and they say
Tornadoes.
yeah. So tornado, hurricane, there is some kind of pressure involved in it, and there is air and water which makes this happen. So according to Achashi's Mahapragyaji's view, these natural calamities actually could be because of some samudghat by a huge group of one sense beings. It could be a samudghat by air or water or fire beings, or and that could lead to this. So air and fire also can have Vaikriya samudghat. Now when we say Vaikriya, if I remind you again, what is Vaikriya about? Creating forms. What kind of form can air and fire create?
Thunder, cyclone.
Thunder, cyclone. So the description about fire actually is not there much. But as Sunil says, it could have
Lightning.
it could have been the case that the lightning and all are related with this, but we don't have any kind of discussion about it. But in context of air, we have an illustration that it actually creates form like a flag. So it's not like a multiple forms, or if they could do miraculous things like human beings are able to do with the Vaikriya power. It's very simple things they could do is they could create a shape, a form of a flag, and they could move around in that form or that shape. So it's not like a big thing happening, it's just very simple and subtle thing happening there. Now again, most interesting is they don't have a developed mind, right? But still that ability is there, and that's been expressed. So with that we know that, and what about the Tejas body? Tejas, who has it? For according to, human beings, yes, we should have everything, right? We are special powerful people. And that's the case. I mean, both Shwetambar and Digambar tradition consider that the human beings can have it. And especially in Digambar tradition, the belief is that only an ascetic and sadhu can only have this Tejas power, because it comes through penance. But according to the Shwetambar tradition, Devta can have it, and humans and animals can have this power. Now, any example can you remember of Tejas Samudghat, which anyone has done in history?
Koshala.
What about Tejas?
Yes. So the Tejo Lesha, Tejas Labdi, Tejas Samudghat are all, kind of the same field which we use. And Goshalak is one of the case, and there is also in Bhagavati Sutra, if you have remembered, there is one episode where the Indra or someone gets angry and he stares at some, what's happening there, and then the Balichancha, the city starts burning,
Yeah.
right?
We remember that.
Okay, now that is your test. चारों जन फर्स्ट लाइन में बैठे हो. I'm not sure if that is there in the first book. It should be there, but it's
not in the first one.
So that says, if I don't remember, it cannot be
Not in the
the
first book. We were there for the rest of them.
There is this, I don't remember which volume it is, but there is a situation where actually in short, the Indra gets angry on some other devtas because they do some mistreating thing, and when he's angry, he stares at that city of the lower devtas, and the city starts burning. I mean, it's not city in the sense one of the devloks, and then this actually asks for forgiveness, and then he retrieves back his power. So within Jain scriptures, there are narratives which mention that the devta can also have this power, and of course humans can have it and animals can also have it. So there is a difference of opinion who can have it in context of Tejas. But in case of Ahara, it's again there is a little bit of difference, because in Ahara, according to Shwetambar, only 14 Purvi sadhu can have it. But according to the Digamba tradition, any expert monk who has this special power or riddhi can actually have it. So they need not be a 14 Purvi monk to gain this power. So when we look into these abilities, how it's been discussed in both tradition, both scriptures of both tradition, there's slight variations here and there as to who has it and who can have it. So any questions related to?
Sorry, how would the animals, you said animals can have it?
Animals को कोई power नहीं होता है. It can, right?
But
See, this question of how they can have it is there, because if we say, okay, a human being can have it because of some penance, right? So what kind of penance would the animals do to get this? So there is this question there, but for example, going back to the air and the fire beings who have Vaikriya, they don't do any penance, they still have it. So some of these are actually not only or always penance oriented, it could be just because by birth or some other reasons they just gain it. Now one of the problems, again this is my hypothesis to understand the concept, is someone gets a Jati Smriti Gyan. Right? If you get Jati Smriti Gyan, all the lessons you learned in your past life, you can actually retrieve it. So that's, I think, the best way of starting your lessons, instead of going to the university in the Jati Smriti Gyan. Now, if one gains Jati Smriti Gyan, one could also be probably can tap into the riddhis and powers and labdhis one had acquired in the past life. So there should be some other method of getting access to it. That's how it is.
But then when you talk of Vaikriya and you talk about forms, creating a form. So like if I'm recording you, there is a form image of yours on this screen here. So if I touch this, nothing happens to this form because your original body is there. So like when Dev and Devis create this form, and if that form travels, does anything happen to that form? Because that form is not the real soul. The actual body is actually far away.
No, so this is different from the technology, me sitting there, right? I am there. You can touch it, you can delete it, you can do anything with my picture there, but you cannot do anything to me originally here. In case of Vaikriya, the form is living form. That form actually has life. It is a living body. It is a traveling body. It is a speaking body. It is a doing body, rather than just. It's not like a dead body. It's a living body. So, for example, if someone creates a Ahara body and travels to see Mandar Swami, the body is actually speaking to the Bhagavan. There is an interaction, or if one is going for war, there is something being done by that person, I'm using the word person, but by that new body which is being sent. So there is a task being accomplished by doing that. So it's a living entity rather than, In context of Vaikriya though, there is this two possibilities. One could actually create a living entity, or it's just a non-living entity also. Like for example, one can actually create 1,000 sticks and throw it on the enemies. Now those 1,000 sticks need not be living. So one can actually create an animate thing by Vaikriya and inanimate thing by Vaikriya. Now this is really interesting and unique, but we really don't know how this works out. Because, for example, one is creating the Samavasaran, right? In the Samavasaran, the whole hall is created by the Devtas, by their Vaikriya power. Now, and it is said that once the Samavasaran Bhagwan's discourse is completed, within a short time it's gone. Which means it is because of the Vaikriya power which they chose to use it. That's how it's happening. And this is so there one could actually it's if it is a samudghat actually means a soul traveling out, isn't it? So the soul might project out and create something and return back. How do you understand someone creating something? Like, for example, there is a book here and one can actually create 10,000 books. So these are all non-living. So when this is being created, what is samudghat in it? In the sense, because samudghat means the soul traveling out. So for example, let's give two examples, right? One, I am here and I actually create 10,000 books which are living. The structure is book, or it could be horse. Let's put it horse, right? So 10,000 horse and 10,000 books. What is the difference between the two? Yes, so for the living 10,000 horses, we understand it is samudghat, the soul is creating multiple forms and the soul is there in each horse and it is performing some task. So it is samudghat, it is expansion of the soul outside, and this still there is a living horse body of a part of me which is there. And when it is just a book, what is samudghat in this? It's little tricky in the sense that we really don't understand the subtle aspect of it, because there's no clarity to how this could happen. So the simplest answer would be the process of creating it might involve samudghat, and after that the soul is not a part of what is being created. Yeah, making sense? So but this is strange and interesting to see that the Vaikriya can create two kinds of things, animate and inanimate, to perform different kinds of tasks. And especially the Samvasaran is a good example. So if we think that it should be a living thing, what is being created, then the Samvasaran should be a living, so the wall should be a living wall, everything should be living, but that doesn't make sense. So the only problem it is in the process of creating these multiple forms, there is a samudghat involved, and then once it's created, the soul actually leaves those things and returns back, and the task which is being done by that object is being done. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
Is Tejas Samudghat only, is it both destructive as well as healing?
Yeah, it is both.
Because one of the Leshyas is Tejas and there is a Shubh Lesya. So how would we connect that?
Any idea, anyone? You get the problem what Bharat is raising? Okay, so there are 6 Leshyas. Which are the 6? Krishna, Nilkapo, Tejas, Padma and Shukla. So this is one theory of Lesha, where there is 6 Lesha. This is actually the inner state of emotions in a way. In simple terms, how do you understand Lesha? If it is intense anger, intense emotional rage, that is Krishna Lesha. The intensity is too much, it is negative, it is Krishna. And as you go positive, it is Shukla. And there's a good example of this, that the person, 6 people are in the park and they want to eat the mangoes. So they find a mango tree and one of them says, we'll cut the tree to get all the mangoes. And then the last one says, you don't even have to touch the tree because you can just pick the ripe mangoes from the floor. So what are these diverse stages? Stages of inner emotions or inner stages of awareness or awakening? One is still in the slumber state where he thinks we should cut down the whole forest to get what he needs. The other one says, no, you don't have to disturb the nature, you can still survive with the minimum. So this concept of Lesha is about the inner state of soul. But when we talk about this Tejas Labdhi or Tejas Leshya as this power, it is actually not really having any connection directly with the Tejas Leshya, because the Tejas Labdhi could be destructive and constructive, it could be violent and not violent, it could be healing and destructive. And whether one does healing or destruction, there could be all different shades of emotion. It need not be only good or only bad. One could do healing with the Tejas Leshya, one could do destruction with a Krishna Leshya, and one could actually do something positive with other Leshya. So Tejas Leshya, the Krishna Nil Kapo, Tejas Padma Shukla, the Tejas there is not directly, as per my understanding, we don't have any quick correlationship there. There it is just one state or one stage of spiritual stage or emotional stage we are trying to depict. But here it is a power which we are trying to say, and here we are more dealing with actually the Tejas body power, and there it is actually a theory related to the karma. Because if your karmic impurities are too active, then you are actually going through negative Krishna Leshya and other stuff. And there is more complex problem. I'm not going to go into that because even the Leshya, there is Dravya Leshya and Bhav Leshya, and so it's another world there. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes? So when we've talked about these two things, right, definition and life forms, is there any other question you would have for looking into these abilities or powers? Duration. When we talk about these Vedani Kashai, all six Samudghata, the duration is Antarmurt. That's the static Antarmurt is. What does the duration of Antarmurt mean?
Once a mile less than 48 minutes.
Yeah, so it's a very short time, and one could actually go for Samudghata and come back in that time lapse. So the soul would not stay out of the body longer than an Antarmurt in any of these cases. That's the general theory. But in case of Kevali Samudghata, it's very short time. It's 8 nanoseconds, nano moments. So it is even shorter than an Antarmurt. Even like we have blinked, the Kevali Samudghata has happened and the Kevali has come back. So it's that fast. But in case of Vaikriya Samudghata, there is another additional theory which we find that the duration actually could be 15 days or 7 days, and it could be just Antarmuhurt. So there is another list of duration which is found only in context of Vaikriya Samudghata, and the probability is that when we create a Vaikriya body, the duration is Antarmuhurt, but how long does the body stay? And to this there is a question. Suppose one is doing the birth ceremony of Bhagwan, right? And then they would say, oh, the celebrations went on for long. So if these Vaikriya powers are there only for Antarmurt, how could it go for long? Or if it's only there for 15 days, how could the things can actually go on longer? So there we say that one could create Vaikriya. The time gets, when you have, the time is over, what you do? You renew your card, isn't it? When your card expires, there is a renewal process. So here again, you just go through the renewal process, or you redo your Samudghata to keep on going for what you've been doing in these cases. So in Vedani Kashaya and Maranantik, since we think it's a spontaneous happening, the probability of it is just like expansion and retrieving is just a short duration and just happens. There should not be a renewal process attempted, because it's not an effort being done. But in case of the rest three, there could be always redoing it or renewal thing which could happen, and one could carry on from there. So that is another thing which we can understand about how these Samudghata actually vary. Now, anything else related to this? Yes, ma'am?
Can that does that Vaikriya Samudghata or something, and the actual soul just died, then what happens? Like, because the soul is two places. What happens? Just in, does that ever happen? If it does,
It's a big
then
disaster, isn't it?
It
पूरा
is,
mess
isn't
हो
it?
गया. इधर हूँ, उधर हूँ और फिर मर भी रहे हैं. That could happen. I mean, this is so here in this context there is a description of double projections, double samudghat. So one is, for example, one has undertaken aharak samudghat. So they've almost gone to see Mandar Swami, they've got the answers back, they're returning back, and then death happens. So when death happens, they could head on to Maranantik samudghat, which is reaching to the birthplace. So in the Vaikriya samudghat or Tejas samudghat, or there multiple samudghat can happen at the same time, and then even death can happen at the same, I mean, with these. So Maranantik samudghat can happen following the Vaikriya or any of these samudghat. So when death is happening, it's a natural process. I mean, the age rendering karma exhausts, and the soul has to leave. But it's very simple that the soul would leave from this main body and the expanded state, and it would move forward. So in this case, there is one interesting thing which I could actually show, which is so suppose this is the main body, right? I mean, if you just assume this is the main body, or a smaller one probably, and then there is another, the travel actually happens to the other location, and so there is an expansion into some other place, and from there on, if death is happening, what's happening? The soul is actually to be born in this topmost place. So let's assume this here, the tip here is the main body line. The soul expands to the samudghat, and then now death. So while death, it's not that the soul will return back to its old house and then take a leave and say goodbye to everyone. No time for that. What happens? Whatever luggage you have it, no worries. You move forward, expand towards the birthplace. So now the soul is actually expanded from its main body to its with its new samudghat body to the new birthplace body. So literally, this actually becomes a Maranantik samudghat with the additional body of Vaikriya there. And then what happens from here? From here, actually the soul starts squeezing. It squeezes here, and then from here it squeezes here, and then from here it's all actually squeezing. So there is a retrieval process for the soul to return, to go to the new birthplace, rather than it, because otherwise what is happening after death? The soul moves towards the new place, right? But here the birth has already started off. And then the birth has started, some part of the soul which is hanging outside actually is pulled inside after the birth has started off. So this whole process of birth and death, one can understand better only if we understand Samudghata. Because without understanding Samudghata, even like when we say about when death happens, I mean, especially when we see the ascetic traditional practice, it is that you don't touch the body for a while, you leave it. How do you do it for the lay people? I don't know. Is there a practice of that kind? Why is it so? Because
For how long?
now in our congregation the practice is 36 minutes. 6 minutes. It should be antar muhurt, I mean that's how I understand, but I don't know, there is some calculation about it. Why is this there? Because the soul might be actually gradually moving out, and it could be painful for them, and it's not wise to disturb their process, because some people, the soul leaving. So when we say that the soul is leaving, What do you guys mean? Samudghata, isn't it?
Hmm.
Birth हुआ नहीं है, पूरा death हुआ नहीं है, and it is legal. This is
Yes.
so the process of death itself in Jainism, if you really need to understand, and even the birth process, without Samudghata, it is an incomplete story.
Yeah.
So Samudghata is really important now. Yeah.
So then I have another
Yeah.
question. Does it ever happen that there are souls that they've departed, but the new body has not been created, so they are somewhere?
Liminal
Does that
limbo.
happen?
No, in Jainism, the whole that is the place. So, for example, when we're talking about this, I was mentioning that there is this expanded state, isn't it? So, when there is an expanded state, suppose we create a new case. The soul is the old body is here. The death process starts happening. The soul gradually leaves, and it is expanded. Or the soul completely leaves the body. Let's put it this way: the soul leaves the body and is to be born here. There is two locations in this thing: one death location and birth location. So the time lapse between from here reaching there is very very short in Jainism. It's nanosecond. I mean, maximum 4 moments or 5 moments. That's the maximum. Samani. And within that short time, the soul is actually in its new birthplace. So it's important that when we think about someone as dying and like in there is a shraddha being done, right? 12 days and all that stuff. Why? Because you want, and they do puja so that the soul can find its new place properly, and these kind of theories. So those theories are absent in Jainism. There is nothing like guiding the soul to the birthplace or helping the soul find its peaceful location or all that stuff. No. Why? Because death can only happen if you've already taken up the next life karma. And if your next life karma has been decided, is there any question there to make sure that the soul finds a place, or it's making sure it gets a new good birth? All those questions of finding and all that stuff, it's dissolved because you already decided. Only even Maranatic Samudghata can only happen if the next destination is decided, because you know where you're heading to.
So what happens in cases of suicide? When you are not even dead, do you think it's part of your karmic thing that you are going to commit a suicide, or is it chemical reaction in your brain? Because some people do commit a suicide, or if they are stopped due to they are probably rescued by some movements, then they don't die. So I'm just wondering how does that work?
No, death, there are different kinds of death: sopakram, nirupakram, by accident without any other external factor involved in it. So there could be both the cases. There could be expedited fruition, or you could expedite your death, in the sense a person might live for like another 20 years, but someone does, and then there is death happening there. So the process of death could actually be there's no like one, but one thing is very sure, that there is our next life karma has been decided to one would actually head on to that. Yeah. We can take one final question, I think, before we complete, because any okay, yeah, we have 3 hands up there. Let's start with Shubham. Yeah, let's go that way. Yes.
Yeah. Samani, so when you say that Samudghats bring more karma, is it possible? Just as a thought I had, that Samudghats bring karma, it could be, one theory could be that all karma are due to Samudghat.
No, because every day we are doing many things without even Samudghata. So karmic bondage, and the general thing, like even we are speaking, there is a karmic intake and karmic discharge going on. So
From what I heard from you, it sounded like, because we've not heard, I have not heard of theories around how karmas, get attached and detached, and maybe Samudghata is a process of that.
The reason why I say no is because generally when we are doing things, there is a huge theory about this actually. The karmic intake and karmic discharge going on in every moment. While sitting now, you might not be doing anything, but still you're taking in 7 types of karmas. So So then that theory is very extensively been discussed in Jainism. And this case is a special case where there is involvement of the soul's expansion and then the process is involved. Yes, correct.
With Kashai, Vedna Kashai and Manantik, Samudghata, there is no Laptis involved, yeah?
No, that's a big difference there.
It's
That
only
is,
the,
yeah, it's
related
non-Lapti
ones.
oriented, and the other important thing is they don't create a new body to expand or do the Samudghata. In all the three rest, when there is a Lapti involved, there is a formation of new shell, new body, and then it's been, yeah, we know that.
What happens if the soul doesn't leave the dead body?
Don't
Is
leave the.
it leave the dead body? Because in other religion, this is how they say the ghosts are formed. Is that true in Jainism?
So when you say dead body, it itself means the soul is dead. I mean the body, the soul has left.
When the soul doesn't leave the dead body.
Dead body का मतलब ये कि soul नहीं है. Okay, so no, I get your point. So the whole thing is that the soul might leave the body and come back to that body and make it alive. So it is a dead body, but it's become alive because the soul comes back to that body. Now there are cases in history where we see that there was an acharya who was giving the lessons to his students, and then he passed off. And then he thought, oh, my students would have not complete their lesson, so I need to finish the lesson. So he comes back into that body as a of the Muni, gives the lessons, and then he says, sorry, there was a mistake there. What was the mistake? He was no more a monk, right? And all his students were monks. He was dead, in the sense he was a devta, and as a devta he would not actually allow the monks to express reverence to him and be a teacher to them the way he was doing it. So he said Michamdupuram to all the students that sorry, I just had to finish the lesson, so I came back again. So there are these kind of stories where the soul, but the word ghost actually, they're all devtas, in the different kinds of devtas which could come back in different ways. Yeah. So we actually had to, yes, final question, yes.
But when you say Samudghata happen and they're traveling like another thing, so supposing they're thinking another things to do at the same time, so they can do another thing at the same time?
Multiple bodies could be created. So one could make a horse and an elephant at the same time and send the horse to reach to the king and the elephant to the other place. But again, you can just check with Pandami, she wanted to come, I think.